And of course, I was years ahead of my time. So I lost all my money that I'd made. Plus, I owed the bank millions and millions of pounds. And that £180,000 saved my business, saved my company, and in a peculiar way saved me.
How close did it get to potentially failure?
Well, in the late 80s, during the recession, I mean, I'd made a lot of money, I thought it was a lot of money in 1982, about £1.5 million. It was a lot of money in 82. Of course, it wasn't enough to retire, and I had 6 weeks of playing snooker and golf and fishing and cricket, but I wasn't getting that adrenaline rush of doing deals and making things happen. So that's when we formed Matchroom, which was only formed as a £100 company purely to have fun. You know, I didn't think I needed the money, so let's have some fun and take Steve, go around the world, you know, have to enjoy ourselves. You know, I thought I'd done my work. I was 34, it's quite old. And from there, it all seemed, I sort of invested quite a lot of money into lots and lots of different events. In my trips to America previously, I'd noticed this company called ESPN showing sport to the masses, and I thought, we don't have anything like this in the UK. One day we will. And when someone like that comes over, they will need programming, because there isn't any. So I thought, well, I'll start getting some ready. Snooker, pool, whatever you want to call it, boxing. And of course, I was years ahead of my time, so I lost all my money that I'd made. Plus, I owed the bank millions and millions of pounds. And it came to a crescendo probably in, I think it's 88, 89, where I was seriously thinking of going back to work as an accountant, because everything was crashing down, you know, around me. I got off a train at Slough. It was snowing. It was 4:00 in the afternoon, Christmas Eve. And I walked in to see this very nice chap called Alan Hearn. No relation, but same name. And I made the worst pitch ever to get him to sponsor the European Snooker League, which was happening 3 weeks later. And I needed 300 grand. And after I finished, terrible, my heart wasn't in it. It was a bit like a fight where you're coming out in the championship rounds and you don't really want to be there. You've been battered. You ain't going to win. You'd rather go home, you know, sit in the bath. And I was like that. I'm a chartered accountant, I'm smart, I can still get a job, I'm going to feed my family, no big deal. And when I finished, he said, you must really need this. It's Christmas Eve. It's just gone 4:00. I went, to be honest with you, I do need it, badly. He said, well, I've got no money. So I thought, well, that's it. The last kick in the nuts is all I want. Happy Christmas, Bazza. Let's go out. And I'm thinking to myself, let's go out with some style. So I just looked at him and said, Mr. Hearn, thank you for the time. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Christmas. And I turned to leave and he said, but I have got hotel rooms. And I said, what does that mean? He said, well, I've got no money for sponsorship. I said, you've told me that already. He said, but I've got some of the best hotels in the world and I've got rooms. Would that interest you? Well, at the time, they had Sandy Lane in Barbados, they had the Georges V in Paris, they had the Plaza Athénée in New York, they had the Waldorf Astoria in London. Of course it interested me. He said, I'll give you 300 grand's worth of hotel rooms. And we shook hands. By the time I'd walked to Slough Station, I'd sold that £300,000 on my good name and reputation for delivering to a group of pals in the travel business at a 40% discount, and they sent me £180,000 in cash. And that £180,000 saved my business, saved my company, and in a peculiar way saved me, because it realised I can't be beaten. I just can't be beaten. And I suppose the thoughts that would go through, say, Phil Taylor's head at his peak, where he could almost throw with his eyes closed and say to himself, I'm the best in the world. I can't be beaten. It was the feeling I had that day. And that hasn't left me ever since.
Well, you mentioned Phil Taylor. The darts became one of your increasing portfolio of sports that you're involved in. When was the moment when darts became a thing for you?
it was weird because obviously, you know, I love sport anyway, and I can't tell you I was a big darts fan before I got involved. But people know me, and I'm particularly good at certain parts of the business, in particular TV sales and globalisation. And the PDC, struggling with their battle with the BDO, came to see me and said, look, you know, they recognised they weren't very good. They were very good at certain things, darts related, but they weren't good at the commercial. And they said, would you help us with our TV? And, you know, basically what I do. So I get paid a chunky commission, and I go and terrorise people and sell hours of coverage. So I did that for a couple of years. It was going okay, slightly slower than I would have hoped. And then the PDC made another very bold statement and said, look, you know, we're still losing a little bit of money. The only people that gained from the PDC and the BDO was the lawyers, really. Would you be our chairman? And I saw that they needed cash badly to keep going. And I said, I don't do chairmanship, I do ownership. So I said, why don't you we'll put a value on the company, issue some shares, I'll underwrite the whole issue, offer it to existing shareholders, those people that don't take up their shares, I will, and then I'll be chairman. And that's what we did. And I acquired, I think it was 36% of the ownership of the PDC, which has grown over the years to 70% because I like darts. And they took me to the Circus Tavern when this process was going through, and I walked in the door and I saw 700 Barry Hearns in there, drinking pints of lager, having a fag, having a bet with the bookies, having a dodgy pizza, chanting with their mates, and watching world-class sport at the same time. And I turned around to Dick Alex, Tommy Cox, Marcus Robertson. I said, I just smell money. And that was where it all started.